Awesome. Welcome, everybody. Here we are on Friday, November 24th. This is our fourth New Earth Visioning discussion with Harlan Emil Gruber, who I had the pleasure of meeting through Design Science Studio and who is also one of our instructors this fall at Beecher Academy. He just taught two lectures the last month on his Portal to the New Earth book. Harlan, it's always an honor to have you here. It's always a beautiful discussion that ensues after your little presentations here. And I'm super grateful to be here with you guys today.
All
Welcome.
right, thank you for everyone showing up. Yep, it's the day after Thanksgiving, November 24th, 2023. And so what came to mind just minutes before I started this as to share a little bit to kick off our New Earth Visioning is where and how I came up with the name Portal to the New Earth. Because I went up to Garth's Boulder Gardens yesterday to share in their community Thanksgiving dinner, the first Thanksgiving without Garth, who passed away last July. So this is such a big part of my life, and it's so much about, bringing about the new earth. So let's see. What I'm going to try to do is, while I talk about Boulder Gardens, I'm going to start to show some pictures of it, and hopefully this is going to work out with this photo. Can everyone see this photo of a little outdoor living space in front of a boulder pile?
Looks great.
Working good. Okay, so back in 2008, where was I living? In 2008, I was still based just in the summers in New Mexico, and I still had an apartment in New York City. I'd lived in Taos for quite a while, but had no longer had a place. And I was traveling around, and I just ended up at the Joshua Tree Music Festival. And after the music festival was over, there's one of the people living in Joshua Tree said, "We've got to go up to this place where they do these full moon drum circles." And we went up there that night, and I ended up sticking around and hanging out and meeting Garth, who we're going to see some pictures of. But this is his outdoor living room and kitchen space. And even though this picture is from 2008, and I'm not going to show pictures from yesterday's Thanksgiving dinner, it looked almost identical. The only difference is there's a grand piano that his friend Piano Dan brought and placed there. So Garth bought this property in like 1981, and he lived there for 40 years. It's in Joshua Tree, the Pioneer Town area, and he never built any permitted buildings on it. He just lived in a teepee. Everyone who lives there lives in very simple structures. There's no full infrastructure there, indoor buildings of any sort. So they lived like very much in harmony with land. And that was Garth's vision, was like this heaven on earth, living in very simple, sacred harmony with the earth. And throughout all the years of going there, there's been a community of like from half a dozen to maybe upwards of 20 people that live there somewhat full time. And then there's just people that have heard about it that come from all over the world that camp there. So here we go, just walking around quickly. There's Garth and my good friend Jimmy Wiz. Now, mind you, this was back in 2008. And as part of this first trip and first visit with Garth there, he took us not only to this area, it's a square mile, but the whole thing is pretty much undeveloped. And this is the area where his teepee is. Hopefully some pictures of that will come up, called the sanctuary, with these huge boulder piles, a pond that he put in with a little bridge going across it. And in the pond, all kinds of fish, turtles, frogs that he put there. This was just when he bought the place in 1980, it was on a road that goes up into the mountains that was like people used it as a dump. It was a junkyard. The pictures from then, it was just horrific. Took him years to clean it up. This is the cold plunge that's next to the sauna. He built all of this, put this pool in the rocks, and then that's the entrance into the sauna. And I think we'll have pictures inside the sauna. Nope, not there. There's his teepee though. And so, like, I'm just going to go really quickly just to give you like this feeling of, and this is where I went up yesterday to get, to understand that. And after going there for years, I'm going to show a few more pictures. This is, kind of redundant around the pond area. And I think we're going to end up down there's Garth again. And there's my model of the 64 tetrahedron grid that I had just made. And I was actually just coming from San Francisco, where I had presented on my 12 spiral city. at this Eco City Summit. And I showed Garth the model of that, and we immediately bonded because he just has this vision of living in, perfectly ecologically integrated, beautiful environment. Here we are walking down to the spring. Now, what you notice in the background is all the trees are burned. This was 2008. In 2006, a huge fire burned 30 or 40,000 acres of this area of Joshua Tree. And what it did is it burned out this little canyon on his property that we're walking down to, and it exposed a spring. The spring most likely took place because Garth had been there for so long, filling the ponds with water, and he'd put wells in to get the water. And so now he's bringing us down into the spring area that now I just harvested several pomegranates that he planted there way back when. So here you can see that maybe these pomegranates are already in. He's showing us the various trees, and these are now mature trees that are, 15 feet tall, bearing lots of fruit. And this is pretty much the end of this first slideshow, but it's just such an honor to connect with him, and he's meant so much. So let's see, I'm going to jump to the next slideshow. It just what an incredible landscape, though. There I am way back in 2000. Oh, the horses. He had horses for quite a while. He loved horses. He loved animals. He had all these bird cages with peacocks and chickens and pheasants. He built several of them in the rocks. Okay, look, that was there's the panorama. Okay, let's go now to, see how I could do this. Back to, I don't know. Okay. Okay. Can you see this now? We're at the amphitheater. This is now 2013. So I came back for some other people's event where they put on a little performance. It was called Day in the Desert. You could see some speakers and easy ups. And I brought my Diamond Portal and Heart Star Portal to be part of it and set it up at the amphitheater. And there I am with Garth, 2013, and at this beautiful gathering. I don't even need to show too much of it. And in some ways, let's see, I wonder if I could then just jump to what this inspired was the very next year, I went back, met with Garth and said, I would like to host an event here in your amphitheater. And I wanted to host it mostly to benefit the land, bring in some money to help benefit so they can continue to live and develop it in the way Garth's vision. And we sat in the teepee, and that's where we discussed the idea of it came up with the name Portal to the New Earth. And so let's see, here is, I don't even know, I didn't preview these. So here we are at first Portal to the New Earth. You see, I built a whole big shade structure and a DJ booth, and I brought the big amethyst portal at the time, set it up on the point. We had all kinds of cool music at night. Oh, this is a little workshop up in the yurt, which is actually quite a ways away. The property is a square mile. So this is like a half a mile away from the amphitheater. This was the pre-workshop. We did a village bird, like a permaculture immersion. And what's so funny is let's see, it's hard to see her. I worked very closely with the girl in purple. I didn't get to meet her at the time, but that's Z Earth Star Healer. So here we are back at the amphitheater. And so we ended up here's a beautiful circle with Garth and his good friend Victor. You could pick Victor out, the guy with the hat and glasses and beard. He was Garth's friend that helped him find this property. And there's we printed up a big banner from the flyer. And I did these gatherings from 2016 to 2019. At Boulder Gardens. Unfortunately, look at sunrise ceremony at the portals. And as you can see in that picture, we had a kitchen, and I had, as part of it, I provided food for everyone. Breakfasts and dinners were included in the event. So we all ate together. Lots of yoga workshops and lots of sound healing. I don't know if I got pictures of the sound healing taking place. There's our elder, Alea Love, giving a presentation. Oh, and look at sound healing, not taking place, but look at the gongs that we had and a big crystal altar in front of the DJ booth. So I think this gives you a real feeling for what the event was like and what it was like to be at Boulder Gardens. Oh, there's Grandmother Abril, a Native American, Indian native, doing her teachings. David Starfire doing a sound healing in the Amethyst Portal. He was also one of our featured performers. And I haven't looked at these pictures. I didn't even, Mary Electra doing this incredible vocal sound healing workshop. it's fun for me to just look at them with you. More the first night we did just acoustic music, and then this on Friday night, and then Saturday night we had a little bit more of the electronic dance music. But it wasn't really focused as a music festival. It was really focused as a sound healing and wisdom teaching festival. Oh, look at our little road, the little bit of vendors going on, and it was limited to 200 people. And I'm going to stop the share. That's what I wanted to share, but I'm going to finish off by saying about, that's, I'm still here. I'm still connected very loosely. Besides doing this event there, I live, it's about 15 miles away from where I live. I don't go up there often to share, except for when people come to share it or for Garth's birthday. I haven't missed a birthday with Garth in many years. And of course, for his birthday this year, they had a big memorial. And I printed out lots of big photos I have. Oh, I should have, let's see if I could, let me just do that. One last photo before we, and so the reason why I share this though, like I said, not only did Garth and I come up with the name Portal to the New Earth, but here is a place where people are living completely outside. Like when you drive up to this Boulder Gardens, which you can still do, it's open 365 days a year. And fortunately, this young man, Robert Peterson, showed up about 4 years ago and he decided he wanted to live there and he loved what Garth is doing. And in the last 2 years, he was there full time taking care of Garth, as was other people. Garth had not very good health the last few years. And fortunately, Robert has stepped up into the position to take over Boulder Gardens and run it in the spirit of Garth. So it's continuing on just as if Garth was there alive, being open every day for anyone to show up, just drive in there. They're not like advertising it per se, but there is a website, Boulder Gardens Sanctuary. It's Gardens Sanctuary, 2 S's. Could maybe put in the chat, or maybe Alicia could help me put it in. And I just want to share this one, my favorite picture of Garth. I took it back in 2020, December of 2020, and share this one. It's so magical. And share. There's Garth sitting in his teepee with his little dog Montana at his feet, and with the rays of light, of course, shining in on him, but it does look as if the rays are just emanating out from his heart. Garth had such a big heart, and he took in all kinds of wayward people to live there, and it's an incredible thing that he did, and that's still living on, and that I'm very deeply indebted to and connected to. And that's basically what I wanted to share with you, is just, that it is possible to just go in, be in the world and be living in a way that is in accord with this new earth visioning. And, I live in a very conventional way here. I'm not, in a regular house, all that, in a suburban kind of tract, and it's far from the new earth, with street lights shining in my backyard and neighbors' dogs barking constantly. And it's not the new earth. And I struggle with that every day. And, I've never occurred to me or thought like, oh, I should just go up and live at the Boulder Garden so I could be living in the new earth. So it's not an easy thing to do. And I kind of used to the comforts, modern convenience and comforts. And so that's what I wanted to share. So I want to now open up for anyone else to either respond, ask any questions about that, or it can go off on a complete separate tangent to any other experiences you've had or what you're doing to bring about the new earth. So please, anyone would like to jump in. Don't make me call on you.
Mage, go ahead, bud.
Mage, yes, thanks.
Hey, so it's funny because it looks like I'm at a waterfall, but I'm not. I'm actually at my work right now, and I'm installing a new window on a Tesla, and so it's kind of funny. I own land, or own, quote unquote. I am a steward of a land of about 10 acres in Tennessee, so I'm tucked in right between two hills, and this is super inspiring to me. I obviously we don't have those kind of boulders in Tennessee, but just like the more time I spend out there, the more the way the land wants to be worked with is revealing. So like I see that completely with what's going on out there. It's so inspiring. So thanks for sharing this stuff.
Yeah, I'm putting in the there's like 2 different websites. One is like an older more defunct one, but here is the official website of Boulder Garden Sanctuary. That this transition only just took place in the last few months of Robert taking over running it. For the before that, Garth was still alive and things were just going on as Garth had run it. But so here's the new website. Yes, please, Chelsea. Look, what would you?
Hi, everyone. So good to meet with fellow like-minded, open-hearted people and to hear how life was happening at the Boulder Sanctuary is really amazing. I'm here in Guatemala. I'm the most biodiverse, but it's really amazing to hear, even because I've spent time off-grid in Joshua Tree area. So like grow pomegranate and stuff there is really impressive. And all of those like freshwater springs and things. But I'm down here and I'm looking in this area and also in Guatemala because my vision of New Earth is clothing optional in a very like safe, non-sexual kind of container, and rainforest off grid, and really getting back to the nature of our bodies, like to be like in touch with the elements. So food foresting, all of these really cool things, and then exploring consciousness too, because I feel like my relationship with the world is that everything that exists has a soul that just wants to be felt and understood. So if we listen into all of the things that we might even consider inanimate, and plants, animals, the earth itself, then we get to do really cool soul-to-soul collaborations. So my New Earth, I'm starting this eco village and looking for this land is based on everyone doing what feels the most like them. Because I feel like the economics of doing what feels like you, and that may be like 2 or 3 things that are really just so natural to you. And then having us come together where everyone's doing the most fulfilling thing and sharing from that surplus. I feel like that's how Earth was designed, as well as like us being extensions of the ecosystem, and like someone just said, stewarding the land. So I've started here in Guatemala and I'm looking specifically for red clay because it's one of my soul materials. We want to build earthen homes, especially cob for me, just like really touches me, and the artistic part of it too. So just really excited to be in the room and talk to people that have the same feelings about this. So thank you for creating the space.
Oh, thank you so much. That was a beautiful share. Like you said, we're like humans being an extension of ecology. And, a big part of this, and you're fully aligned with this new earth and you're doing what you can to bring it about. But it is the social, like even seeing how things worked at Boulder Gardens over the years, the way the people, the social level of it is almost the most difficult. How do we get over how people, and that's been the story of all kinds of eco villages and intentional communities, isn't so much, everyone has that shared vision, and yet then how do you work out the interpersonal relationships of it? But I think that's, the inner work that we all have to do to then come together in a way that, can be harmonious and not bring up the issues, like I say. And just on a global scale, I just throw out there, obviously there's so much global negativity that needs to be addressed or removed or resolved or let go of or behind us to move ahead, so that we all live in this very conscious and harmonious way. So, oh, great. We've got vintage. And look at your cool background. Yeah, please go ahead.
That's what I'm envisioning for yeah, you guys already know. But yeah, I go by vintage, guys. And I wanted to speak a little bit about what you just mentioned and how like we gotta unify, right? And to unify, we gotta bring in all the types of people, at least for this stage in this sequence, right? Because first we gotta unify the people. But from my research and from my experience, the crowd in these eco villages and the intentional communities have been one group of people, which are needed as well. But representation matters, and that's why like a lot of our family members, they don't feel like they're family members sometimes because of the lack of representation. And so That's why for this first phase of this whole grand vision, I intend to build a stable foundation, a community in SoCal, because I feel like it's a whole energy vortex. One can extract resources from the matrix, siphon it, and then feed the ecosystems that we're building there, and have a very good representation because it's super diverse there in culture, in thought, in everything, you know. So I feel like yeah, that was like the first place. But right now I'm traveling with two friends around the country, linking up with leaders and community organizations. We just visited the garden in Tennessee, actually. So it's cool that you are there too, Mage. But yeah, we visited the garden. They're like an intentional community that was actually.
You mean the farm? You mean the farm, right? In Tennessee, it's the farm. It's
No, no,
the
no. I'm talking about something different than what Mage was speaking of.
Yeah, no, I know, but you say the garden in Tennessee. I'm
Yeah.
thinking, are you? I know of in Tennessee, there's a place called the Farm, which is like one of the longest, biggest, lasting, intentional communities. But I never heard of the garden, so maybe it's something
I
different.
don't think it was a farm. The garden, they were featured on the Discovery Channel, and they got actually a lot of social media content on that. So if you ever want to look that up, you can do so. But yeah, we were visiting them, creating an alliance with them and like other people because uh, we're creating this nonprofit that's gonna biomimic mycelium. And this is what intrigued me about Design Science Studio because they were using the same lexicon that I was discovering and tapping into, like biomimicry and mycelium. And so yeah, we're developing this nonprofit to do so and create alliances with many different realms. Because I'm connected to the Moors, for example, which operate like they're warriors on the legal sense. They wow, you know what I'm saying? And we need that level of legal security, legal sovereignty as well. And yeah, just like I'm connected to a bunch of people, and yeah, so that's what I'm personally doing. Yeah, I would love to hear more of what you guys are doing as well, each one of you.
Thank you. I did find the garden and I put their website in there. And I just wanted to jump back to Chelsea for a second. Do you have any website or any information to connect with your project in Guatemala? So I personally
Yeah,
want to know more, but for everyone here,
yeah, I'll put the link in the chat, and I will be moving soon from Guatemala to Costa Rica. That's most likely where we're going to land, just based on the land qualities and the things we're looking for, like tropical rainforest and the biodiversity and things. So
great. If you want to put it in, or if you want me to look it up for you and find it. Oh, well, anyway, let's keep moving ahead. Chelsea froze, but I think I'm not frozen, right? Everyone can hear and see me still.
Yep.
I hope. All right. Well, then, anyone else have something to say? If not, I want to call on my good new friend Stefan to share. If you, oh, we do have Mage wants to come back in, so go ahead, Mage. Oh, you're muted.
Sorry. Yeah, I got so excited I forgot to actually share what I'm doing. So, Moss and Bones Apothecary is my herbal extract company I have with my partner. We planted a pound of American ginseng seeds. We're cultivating golden seal and black cohosh, which are very important medicinal herbs that are endangered. And of course, working with mycelium too, inoculating with lion's mane and shiitake and oyster. I also have the frame for a 15-foot diameter geodesic dome that is about to be put up. And basically, it's called Living Lore Sanctuary. We're going to have retreats that empower people to come back and to take ownership with their life by the stories and the words that they use to tell, and realizing that we're weaving our own mythos with the words that we choose to tell our stories with. So basically, I'm a yoga teacher, I'm an herbalist, getting people primarily in urban environments out back into nature to reconnect with nature, but ultimately their self. And that's the short pitch of it right there.
Okay. Wow. Great. I'm going to put it in without a hot link. So I'm going to convert it into a hot link for you to make it easy for everyone else to just click, which is easy for me to do. So let's do that. And I didn't mean to put Stefan on the spot, but I just love hearing his input and visions. He has so he's I'll brief for the people that didn't meet him last month. I'll briefly introduce. I was in Mount Shasta on this trip where I was doing a little book presentation tour, and I ended up on the mountain. And he needed a ride to San Francisco. We met at like this ecstatic dance, and we just had that time together driving to drop him off, and just a super high vibe. I consider him to be one of the most evolved people I've had the honor and pleasure to connect with. So I think that's enough of an introduction. Why don't you just share if any thoughts or wisdom that you might like with the group today?
You're too kind, Harlan. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Much love and gratitude from here in Kauai Island. I'm embracing the beauty of a tropical paradise. And so what I do when I'm here is functioning as a carrier of the utopic versions of reality in the natural world to streamline how ecological harmony happens. Due to working in the past in national parks as a scientist and now as an entrepreneur who does primarily consultation for larger estates or private landholders that want to convert their property or the essence of land into what some people call utopia, but that's for 10, 20 years away. So how do we get the beginning stages? Well, we visit, I personally visit and experience the relationships of where both beauty and harmony already coexists and functionally operates. So these are generally largely preserved, untouched ecosystems. I'm at a preserved beach here in Kauai right now. And besides a few scattered surfers and dogs, what you'll feel is the true, authentic essence of Gaia as this planet wants to express herself beyond the detrimental influence that most of us have been exposed to in cities. So that imprint is now cradled and it's being curated through me and my co-visionaries as a way to integrate ourselves as members of this animal queendom into the Gaian Nova Terra experience. So when we say New Earth, what do we mean? How does that actually literally become relevant and established? Well, so national parks in the US allow you to experience a little bit of that through sharing that with everyone. It's inclusive, it's non-egotistical, it is focused on educational learning and direct experience. But the problem with national parks is that they only allow you to visit. So how do we sustain this in a way that forms micro sovereign governing communities? And so right now in my travels around the world, I'm igniting these power portal vortexes, Sedona, Glastonbury, and of course Shasta, where we met, and here in Kauai, with that template. And that template is a structure that we're calling in from the future as much as we are anciently remembering it from Atlantean and Lemurian times. So that being said, of course, play is the focus. How do we recreate? How do we exercise into our health, happiness, and joy? And we do that generally best through song and ceremony and dance. So I'm part of a community here in Kauai that was doing sacred song circles, primarily ayahuasca, hunikun, and yawanawa songs that happens once a week here in the North Shore. And that I feel is a vibration that allows for not only the Amazonian wild and indigenous spirit to come through, but ultimately our hearts to connect fully to the dancing body and fully to the joyous open crown where our visions are becoming delicately precipitate. And how that then unfolds is exactly what we're doing here, the brain and heart story session. So I'm honored to be part of this call with you guys. And if you have any specific questions for me regarding more exactly what I do, let me know.
I do, but I want to let other people have an opportunity to speak with you first. If anyone else has a question or something for him, please jump in before I do. Anyway. No? Okay. Well then, so I want to go back to address something that Vintage brought up about being inclusive, because there are so many different humans on the planet at this point that are kind of in various ranges of their evolution of consciousness and frequency. And of course, all of us here today on this call, we're basically all on the same frequency and consciousness to some degree or another. We're all aligning with the heart, with the earth, with nature, with life. With you use the words harmony and beauty, and those are the words I use a lot often. And yet, in the general world, are many people that are living in that maybe a lower vibration. I want to use my words carefully, or a lower consciousness. And they're also kind of been co-opted into this, I'll even throw out the word, the reptilian system that's been, dominating the false matrix right now. So they're, just having to struggle to make money, or they are successful at making money. So they have all of the toys and things that you can get with money, a nice house, cars, other things, and just be seduced by that materialistic world that we're being presented with. And, obviously, most of us probably don't hang out or interact with those kind of people. We end up gravitating towards our tribe, the people that we resonate with. And Vintage brought up the idea that we need to be inclusive. We need to bring them in. But a lot of times our frequencies don't match. So you don't really want to be with them. Like yesterday, I went to both Boulder Gardens and then to another friend's house of us kind of high, like-minded people, where the discussion around the dinner table was all, conspiracy theory out there stuff. And one of the people that came to it that we love dearly, and this incredible musician, she's like, she's from back east. She goes, if I'm back east, if I just say one little iota of what we were discussing, everyone just attacks me like you're crazy conspiracy, and here we're talking, 1000% about it, and like kind of overwhelming her with it. But she was on our frequency, and it was, it's great for us to come together like that. But how do we address, being the inclusivity, and how to bring about the shift of consciousness for them? And, with me, I design and build these portal installations that only get set up briefly at Burning Man or a festival. And my idea is that people will interact with them to help shift it. And you can't just like go up and talk to them or explain it to them. And then people will just say, well, advanced souls will say, just all you can do is shine the light in your heart, or do like what Stefan is doing, just anchoring the frequencies. He's not around people, he's not talking about it, but by us doing this work, just going out into the morphogenetic field, just this meeting today that I've called together as part of a way to help anchor in this frequency, this consciousness, to assist in this. I think that was a long enough tirade. I don't know if I made a specific point, but I think you get where I'm going.
I do. Yeah. So the anchoring is actually uplifting us. You're following your pure purpose soul mission, which for me is partially anchoring that frequency. In other words, the avatar descended from heaven to earth to create the patchwork project Eden Oasis, to remember the garden state of flourishing, nurturing, soft, gentle, yet powerful, like the wave. The wave is a great teacher. The bird, I'm with the albatross, the largest flying bird, is here in Kilauea, or Kauai. And so with lots of birds that flock together along the sea, we see biodiversity in communion. They each have their special niche, and yet they don't compete. And so when everyone is in resonance, they are contributing their optimal skill set as a collaborator to create a destiny that is non-competitive. And without that edge, which we came from, trying to win, to beat someone, we now form that essence of unity, harmony, of unified field. And that's the key to developing a relationship with universal law of one, law of love. And once that is established in the body cellular mitochondria, that morphogenetic field is now in resonance with all systems of life throughout this galaxy. And that then invites our higher mind, our higher self, to come play in this optimally upgrading and soon to be perfecting game. And that is one of the tactics, the keys, of course, using the higher animals, the dolphins and the whales, as guides as well in the water, because they're here with us. Don't forget them. They are very evolved, and their song is equally as important to commune with and to learn from.
Wow. Yeah, there were that brought up three things I want to share, and starting with the last thing, because I just listened to some podcasts on the whale consciousness and how important, and I even mentioned that in my book, The Dolphins and Whales, Extremely Advanced Beings that are here working with us on the higher dimensional telepathic realms, and going back for millions of years with the earth itself. The idea that the whales singing their songs in the ocean are bringing all life into accord. They're like an intrinsic part of life and Gaia. And like you talked about, going into these sanctuaries that are mostly wildlife with very few humans, so you could tap into the spirit of nature, and that's coming through. So that was the first thing I wanted to share, because I shared in my last chapter in the book on Victor Schauberger's work. He was this Austrian future scientist living in before World War I is when he developed it, and through World War, so the early 20th century. And in his work, he understood by connecting, he was a steward of a primeval forest that was like untouched for thousands of years before they harvested all the wood for World War I. And he figured out how to get the wood out of the forest with these log flumes, and he understood the nature of water, the life-giving principles of flowing water. And so, he learned it by just being in the forest and connecting and seeing how nature operated. So nature is our greatest teacher. The other point I want to make is, I'm fortunate. I live in a very suburban neighborhood, but I got this place because it's on a full acre, as opposed to just across the street, little quarter-acre plots where every house is tucked in with just a small yard. I've got a pretty big yard. In the very back is this big natural bush, and there's a family of quail that live in it. And I throw out bird seeds, and they all come out. And right now, there's about as many as can possibly live there. So I feel a little bad. And you see them when you throw the bird seeds out, they'll chase each other and peck at each other to get at it. And then there's also squirrels, chipmunks, and rabbits that all want to come and eat these seeds. But they're all pretty much leave each other alone. They don't ever fight between the different animals. Only the copious amounts of quails will run around, but they seem to be pretty happy. And it's so unfortunate to have like this very wild nature just outside my window to interact with every morning and every sunset when I give them the seeds, and to see how, they just live naturally, and to think about that, connect to their mindset and their way of being just natural wild animals. And yet, one of the issues I had a couple of years ago was the squirrels took over, and it was really bad. They took over and were destroying my Joshua trees, destroying all kinds of things, and to the point that I had to trap them and get them out. And the funny thing is, Garth, who's got the biggest heart ever, and he would feed, that's where I even got the idea to start getting the bird seeds, because I'd go up there and he'd be throwing them out for all the birds. And when I talked to him about the ground squirrels, even Garth was like, oh no, the ground squirrels. He really didn't have much room in his heart for them. Right now, there's only about 2 or 3. And when it got really bad, it was really bad. And I had to trap and remove them, because it just was basically an infestation, and it was wreaking havoc. And it was out of balance. So now with 2 or 3, I see them and I'm like, okay, you guys can be here. Everything's cool. But remembering their overwhelming problems doesn't leave me very fond of them, but they're cute. So I don't know.
You speak specifically of an issue that is out of balance, which is, of course, our hawks, our raptors, our owls. And personally, I speak from an anecdotal perspective, but also a scientist, where a lot of our birds of prey that were monitoring, regulating, balancing the ground squirrel population have been hit by vehicles and are not there anymore, or electrocuted by fences or telephone wires, or shot by poachers protecting their vineyards. So remember that the bird world is our first messenger of signs of symptoms that either are promising or awry. So how are we looking to the winged ones as not only our messengers, but as our litmus of gauge for the ground world?
That makes me think of one of my favorite books by Ken Carey, Return of the Bird Tribe. And if you don't know Ken Carey's work, Ken Carey is very important in my life because I picked up his first book, The Starseed Transmissions, when he wrote it in the early 80s. And I think Bird Tribe was even late 80s, and it's basically channeled Pleiadian information. So I can't recommend it if that's the type of thing that you like to turn to and be inspired by. Return of the Bird Tribe is just incredible. And it's just interesting because he's talking more esoteric bird tribe, but it really does relate to what you just shared. The birds are these highly evolved beings, and yes, the raptors that would feed on them, of course, are highly impacted. And to bring things, because, and a lot of people will say, no, humans will always have war, will always have this discord. And look at nature, the lion is always hunting and killing these things. But I think what we see happening in nature right now is a reflection of the human way of being, and that the lion can lie down with the lamb. And we do see some videos of prey being friends with lions nowadays showing up, and that there is a certain balance. Not to say, this whole thing about, eating meat could be an issue we could talk about, because that does relate to the new earth, and, and killing animals for sustenance. My personal take on it is, and the Native Americans have taught on this very much so, that there can be a balance. There can be a very sacred, spiritual, loving way that we can interact with animals and still be able to eat them if that's part of our 3D realm. In the higher dimensional light realms, there is no killing and eating of animals, but we're here in the flesh, we're here in this time frames of space and all. And, there is something to be said. I'm not much of a meat eater. I enjoy seafood a bit, so that's meat. But, to take a big steak and grill it up, to me, not so much. But I do see how that can be really fabulous experience being incarnate. But the way that we treat all of these, the meat industry is without heart, without spirit. Be another thing if you had your own farm and you raised cows lovingly, and when it was time for it to give up its life to feed the community, do it in a conscious, sacred, loving way. And like the Native Americans, when they would go hunting, one of the herd would give themselves, stay behind, and then they used every bit of that animal with sacred reverence. So it's a shift of consciousness to life. Even with trees, we cut down trees to use the wood. And I believe that's something good, rather than the tree just dies, fall down and rot. That's good too. It helps nourish the forest. But for us to be making beautiful things out of wood is a good thing. But to just use it indiscriminately, to be farming them and making crappy wood out of it to build a house that gets torn down, it's the consciousness underlying it. I'm sure someone wants to respond to that. Look, Pat, are you going to unmute? I saw you look like you want to speak. I'd love to hear from you. Can you see out of? Yep, there you are.
Hi, how are you guys doing?
Great.
I was just taking some notes because Harlan, I met you in 2015 at the Portal Fest in Montana. You were doing your thing and that was great. And so I opened for the Portal Fest and brought Cartron through, the interdimensional being, and he created this heavenly pillar thing because the energy that was there is going to transmute a lot of stuff on the Trail of Tears. And so since after that, I created the quantum field generator. And this thing is a traveling temple that fits in a suitcase, and it's designed to open up as quilting, but to create a temple effect. I've been doing the Cartron experience since 2014, also online. So now we're in season 84, once a month.
What was that? The Cartron? I want to look that up.
The Cartron experience. It's on my Patrick McCormick webpage. I just don't do social media. It's just need to get this stuff out of my head. So that's what's important. But now, and I did the quantum road trip for 5 years after that, just to test the New Earth philosophy of paradigm of divine abundance. The more you give, the more you get, to apply the principles. And so it worked. I tried to even stop my success, and it didn't work. So I got a certain level, and it was creating. It's just really things would show up, they'd manifest. So it was really cool. And so I created this quantum field generator out of quilting. And now I just did a New Genesis event in Austin. And this is where now I got this vision to create the traveling New Jerusalem, which will be based upon, the New Jerusalem design that will then expand. So the QFG will be expanded on with this. This is the design, so I still got to make it. It'll be a beautiful wagon that will open up. And this is designed to bring in the New Jerusalem. And I have a vibe machine, which is like a Tesla coil. And that literally is what I'm using as the arc with the stuff like that. So like what the Israelites did, traveling around, keeping balance of the celestial timing of the heavens. That's how they kept the lands of Israel in harmony. And Solomon's temple even had all the agriculture of the world on the terraces. And when the energy of the Shekinah of the Holy of Holies and the Lord of the world would join together, it would radiate out to the agriculture, and then that agriculture would flourish all over the world. So with that ancient science, I'm thinking, well, let's just do it in the tradition of the Ark of the Covenant and have a New Jerusalem traveling tabernacle with the Ark of the Covenant in our own way. And so we bring it around. And what it is these communities are like out in the wilderness, right? But they're going to network together because we, as the stewards and the sentinels between heaven and earth, are holding the place. So even if it feels like you're not doing anything, you're holding the place as the fulcrum, because if you're the point of the compass that rests, then you don't move that point. So what we represent is holding still. And then the design of what we are, they use that as a template. And we are the version of the New Earth, and it's creating this new templates of reality. What's cool also, Harlan, and congratulations on your book, is that there is a legal and financial process that's getting ready to equal what we as gifts, spiritual gifts for one another, are going to happen. So on the lawful front, a person can get their status and say, no, thank you to the timeline of that matrix that is leaving. And the other part is that they're now accessing those trusts that have been raided your whole lives, so that you don't need to go to anybody for resources. And so there's people that are doing it, that's being worked on right now, even with a relationship with the IRS, the Treasury. So you can get the millions of dollars that you need to really do your vision. So this to me is coming in from a higher timeline, and it's coming together because we've held this place long enough. And now as we do this, as we express our soul and do our lives of destiny, here's what's cool, is that it's being reflected in a reflection-based universe back to us at the abundant level of what we are spiritually. So as spirit reflects out, it comes back as financial and accolades or career or whatever, right? So that's what's happening, just to let you guys know behind the scenes. And this goes along the lines, has many names. And basically the whole process of the Nasara Gasara is happening already, and it has been for a while, just nobody knew how to access it. So now it's coming in the form of things like, let's see, now people are able to access the resources that was taken from them with the foreclosure of 2008. It took that long to come. There's billions of dollars sitting there. I also wrote 1,000 letters to the road leaders for the Kingdom of Hawaii. And so now the kingdom has to come out because of what happened in Lahaina. And right now I'm in Florida, but finishing up this Atlantean assignment of monitoring to see if where the Atlanteans are on their level of awakening. So by bringing the two together, we as like these pockets are saying, this is how we are creating the world, right? We're invoking this through time and saying, no, thank you to this dysfunctional reality, which is all this beautiful dysfunction that's coming up in their face of all the unresolved stuff. So what's neat is that we hold the place. So if it feels like you're not doing anything, oh, you're doing a lot. So, by holding still, we become this pillar and this reference, this fulcrum that allows all this other drama And what's leaving right now is basically the biblical timeline of this whole whatever. And I've been requested before COVID to stand down request, like don't involve. It's a story that has to complete. What's going to be left, what is being left now, is this reality of this, what we are underneath. And as the ancient light comes in and the higher light comes down, and then the other light source comes out, it's joining together. And vibrationally, the earth and us holding it is going to literally, we're going to become so dissonant with the dysfunction that it's just going to vibe away and it will go into its own trajectory. So it's very important that we are holding this place right now. And it was like, oh God, Harlan, he's still doing it. I met you 8 years ago, and it's like, I got to check in on him and see what's happening. I'm like, good job, you're doing great. So that's what I'm doing. And, this will become a design with the New Jerusalem, because the New Jerusalem is a combination of all number systems in harmony, right? So it's a perfect template mathematically. You can look this up on Jean Michel's work. And so this is the floor plan of all the mathematics, even the 7 is in here and all those. So by bringing this around and you set it out, like at festivals and stuff, you can link together on that morphogenic archetypal field. So whatever you guys are doing, you just know it. Have you noticed how there's real-time connection sometimes where it's not like, oh, I got a network, I got to do this, build my social media. Things will show up basically right as you talk about them or right after. The morphogenic field is responding. And that's what's cool about it, because we don't have to build this stuff. It's being built. So I just wanted to connect with you, and it felt really strongly about it. This is so cool. So that's what I'm doing. And then with the Hawaii thing, there's 90 countries that have treaties with the kingdom. And it's time to activate that, and that will begin to restore a level of integrity among governments. Because you're going to see polarity in all the systems right now of, the ones that are saying, you know what, hell no, we're not going to do this anymore. And the other one's saying, you know what, we are people, we need to get together. And so that's what we are watching right now. And so I think it's an internalized Armageddon that's necessary. But then what's left is we are building this right now. And that's what's really cool. So this traveling New Jerusalem Roadshow is going to be quite interesting. And it's designed so you can feel what the ancient temples felt like. When I turn on the vibe machine, the coil in the center, which is my version of the art, then it energizes it. And so this then bring in like-minded people. And now our energy, whatever, is amplified exponentially. And the morphogenic field, we become the dominant paradigm. So that's what is happening right now, to let you guys know that the world is about ready to express physically what we have represented and held the place for probably many lifetimes. So I'm congratulating all of us, and Harlan, good job on this Zoom call.
Thank you. I saw Mage put in the chat a double mind blown, and I have a quadruple mind blown. You're the first person I've ever met to speak of that New Jerusalem diagram outside of John Michel and his book, Dimensions of Paradise, which of course inspired me to envision this arcology, a three-dimensional spiral city based on the New Jerusalem. And of course, you're approaching it in a much different way, much more aligned with how John Michel speaks of it and works with it. And thank you so much. I'm so grateful and honored that you showed up today, because this is a key, such a powerful key. And I know everyone here is grateful to hear what you just shared. And the fact that we're now reconnecting now, because, I threw in the chat a website that I found on the Cartron experience. And I want to make sure it's on Soulfire 444. And it does have you in it, and so that's the one thing. I also did find, but it doesn't have any video associated with it, but it looks like you are on Quantum Conversations with Lauren Gailey. I found a website for that.
Yes.
We talked
about a newer society that was about 4 years ago, and it's great that she's moved forward with it.
Yeah, so on her website, it just has the offers to work with you. It doesn't have the actual interview itself, which is, always nice, because she usually does like an hour-long or interview with each person to entice you to buy the various level offers.
Now, I put my email on there,
Yeah, I got it.
patman33@gmail.com. So if you guys want to be a part of the newsletter, I send it out once a week. I give 2/3 of everything away, and then the other stuff is subscription to pay for the bills and stuff that happens on the weekends. But I do about 23 broadcasts a month, and so this is season 84, and this one is awareness and knowing, so that people can get into the innate awareness. It's really interesting because Kartron, the being that I bring through, creates these like these almost these alternate divine technologies and sciences to allow us to connect in while still adhering to the protocols of non-intervention of this reality, but having us link into who we are. And so that's why we're doing it. It's like online. It's just so easy. I mean, look at what you're doing. You're connecting with people from all over the world just by on a phone or whatever, a computer. And so that's what we're doing now. And I've been taking screenwriting classes because it's time to take this information and these stories and put them into the dramatic storylines that people will say, oh my God. And this way you can put it into the living room of millions of people, right? So it's an efficient way because it's so much harder now that they've really messed with the dysfunctional timeline to really connect, right? So it's all like clunky now. It had a utilitarian continuity, but now it's just a mess. And it's like, okay, whatever. But to connect in now, we have to streamline this. So what's nice is that imagine, for instance, right now, this idea of a place where people can go and virtually visit all of your places that will allow them to go in and experience the processes. That's what technology is getting to, the entertainment. Pretty soon, movies that won't be on a window called a TV. It's going to come into your living room, and that's what I'm looking at. It's like, oh, this is going to be happening, which Walt Disney showed me in 1996. It's like, no, you're going to be in the movie, and so it's interesting how this technology is blending together, and we're going to discover that we are the creators, and we'll be able to use the universal sciences, not the polarity, to then create, like with our intent. So right now it's not as conscious. I mean, look at you guys, you're so conscious and amazing. I want to visit these places and just put out my thing, still being built. But at the same time, it's like the level of technology is coming in and going, those pop us open. It's just going to be amazing. So what a beautiful time and grateful time to be here, you know. And so if you want to see the broadcast, it's on my Patrick McCormick site, and I've got probably hundreds of videos. And
what was that,
Patrick?
experience. What was your website?
Well, it's just Patrick McCormick. My name,
Yeah.
Facebook.
I tried looking that up, but that didn't come up when I did the search. But I did find,
Oh.
What is that Starfire website that I found then?
Starfire.
It's in the link.
That's my friend Rebecca. She brings two angels, like big angels. And she does this energy work and stuff. So she's starting her stuff. That's Rebecca Renee. And so she's amazing with the angelic stuff. She just did a radio show with Wendy in Canada. And so that's what's cool, you know, Harlan, is that people like us, we're now going to start seeing it manifest, not just these pockets, right, of these beautiful places you guys have got. God, you know, thank God you guys are still doing it. Now it's going to start expanding, and in the fertile ground is going to become the dense consciousness of the thirders that are out there. But so that's where the Armageddon is happening. It's going to open it up. And this is a lot of ancestral stuff. Also, I think it's a lot of the stuff of the gods that they put in their creation. So we, as humans, right, we are the handlers for humanity, which are the laggard souls that were kicked out of their worlds because they were holding the heavier stuff. So those worlds could ascend. So Earth says, okay, come on, laggard souls, you can sacrifice me endlessly, and I'll give you a home. And so now what's happening is the alchemy, thousands, maybe millions of years later, we have the most bohemian race of soul beings. And so we are going to become one of those amazing processes in the universe. And that's what the Earth's role will be basically, and you know, the other races are going to show up. But right now we're getting ready for the Adventureland Park. So it's heaven on earth.
I'm trying to find Patrick McCormick website. Is it .com, .org?
It's on Facebook, Harlan.
Oh.
Yeah, there's no website yet. I just haven't done social media. Yeah. Can you send a link, Alicia?
So it's just, do you want to do it, Alicia? Okay, great. Wow. This is awesome. Like you know, and we're at our full hour, although I don't think the Buckminster Fuller Institute is doing their monthly meetup. I didn't get an email for it. So there's no rush. You know, the last couple of ones I dropped, I ended the session because I was heading over to the BFI, but that's not happening. So there's no rush, you know, to us to end the meeting right now, although I don't think we need to go on a whole lot longer, but I don't want to cut it off short because what you're sharing, Patrick, is so amazing and so powerful for all of us to hear. And I'm looking forward to, you know, reconnecting with you a bit more because I see you, you know, is your level of expertise on what's taking place is incredible. And
yeah, I want to create well, it used to be virtual, but now it's augmented reality and immersive reality. And everybody's going AI, but people like us, we do UI, universal intelligence, right? So we're holding the space and this story's going on, oh my God, he said, she said, good, bad, whatever. I mean, over here, the Atlantean refugees, incarnates, are still trying to force their way past the walls that prevented them for thousands of years from moving into the next level, and they have to be vibrationally qualified. So force of will isn't going to cut it. And I realized the Elysian fields in Plato's work or whatever was basically vibrational walls. So, like for instance, the Firestone is in Bimini, and so it's the called the Tua Oi. And so these things are going to start turning on again, and it's going to be interesting. Or the Lemurian crystal egg, right? When they blasted Lahaina on August 8th, this year, they probably didn't realize that there was an acupuncture needle into the heart of humanity. And it sent ripples out for people to say, no way. So you'll see a lot of disasters, but you'll notice that it created a very different effect when it hit Lahaina, which happens to be the kingdom capital that we were going to have a meeting with the county because all land title is fraud. And the kingdom is, we'll figure out how that's going to come in. So that's what's going on a governmental and financial and legal level. So you guys are doing exactly what you're supposed to. The timing is a greater synchronicity. It's so beautiful to watch. And so Cartron comes through and he just helps people connect in, you know, with the source. So like so Monday is the introductions, Wednesday is the etiquette Wednesday, and then formal talk, and then whatever other holidays are showing up, new moons and full moons. Next week will be, I think, 4 a.m. Eastern time. I'm in Florida. So anyway, Harlan, congratulations and thank you. If anybody has any questions or whatever, and we don't have time, you can just email me. And if Lisa, if you could put the link in there, that would be great for just my website.
I'm looking for it also. So you know how many Patrick McCormicks are on Facebook? The very first one comes up, doesn't have much on a page, but it shows a Bigfoot being beamed up by a UFO as the profile picture. So I thought that might be you, but there's nothing.
That's what I get for cloning myself constantly. Just kidding. And so, yeah, Alicia, if you found it, I've got
can't find it either. There's too many.
I got that E283. I'll put a link in this right now. So I'm going to turn my video off and I'll still listen, but I'm going to find my Facebook link and send it to you. Actually, maybe I can give you the newsletter, but I don't want to bloat up your thing. So find it and I'll put it in the text.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, Pat, I already emailed you when you dropped your email in. I already emailed you asking if you could subscribe me to your weekly newsletter. And yes, if you do find the link for your Facebook, drop it in the chat. Then you'll probably get a few new friend requests today. I wasn't able to identify which one you were.
I won't spam you with so much divinity.
No, but man, you know, well, like you said, I kind of want to ask you just your background, how you came to that, but I want to give you a few moments so you can shut your video and add that stuff in. So I will just comment for a few moments, and then if you want to chime back in with answering some questions or not.
Yes, I'm going to turn my video off so that you guys won't see me moving around in my car.
Yeah, go ahead and do that. Well, you know, you and I want to just even just comment on some of the things you were sharing, but you know, in some ways, you know, you're tuned in on a level that I can resonate and relate to, but it's so far beyond the level of work that I'm doing. And you're bringing up that you mentioned about how Atlantean people who are maybe reincarnated with their Atlantean consciousness, but they've been blocked. They haven't been able to come into full effect, by these frequency fences or however you described it. And then lately, especially over the summer, a few months ago, especially right around even before the Lahaina fire, I was getting like somewhat inundated with various Lemurian kind of information. Various different high-level people were doing Lemurian work, going to the islands in the South Pacific or to Hawaii to host conferences and gatherings to reconnect with this Lemurian consciousness. And so and you were mentioning about maybe even like a connection or a meeting between the Lemurian consciousness that's arising at this time and the Atlantean consciousness and these ancient things, which of course are impacting our current situation at this time. So I want to just throw it out there to anyone else who's on the call right now. If they have any connection or information or feelings about these ideas of these ancient civilizations, Lemuria, and Atlantis, that we have maybe, I've met people, I remember this one instance of connecting two different friends, very high vibe friends in San Francisco. One was named Ananda, he had a place called Seraphi, and the other is Adam Apollo, who's now on the scene, but this was way back in 2005. And I introduced them together. When Adam walked into the room and saw Ananda's like, oh my God, so good to see you again. And they were basically remembering working together in Atlantis. They had not ever met in this lifetime or in this time frame, and they knew each other from Atlantis. And I was just in the presence of these two people that had that kind of connection. I personally don't have any direct memories or levels. So if anyone else wants to chime in on this whole Atlantean Lemurian thing, I'd love to hear comments. Oh,
I sent a link. Check the link, Alicia, to see if it works in the chat.
Yes, it does. Yep, I got you.
Yay! I'm so not a Luddite technologically.
Yeah, I mean, I even checked out the Welcome to the Cartron Experience, and at the bottom, it has you and Rebecca's like a little hyperlink for your Facebooks, but they're not linked in there. So I even tried in there under like Meet the Team. So thank you so much for locating that and dropping it in the chat for us.
Yeah, it's a real honor to be here, guys. So anyway, thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Patrick and Harlan. Mage, is your hands raised again?
Yes. So I wanted to just chime in on the still working on the Tesla. So I'm listening though. Chime in about that to answer your question specifically, Harlan. I definitely I have some like prolific dreams that happen throughout the course of my life, and a lot of times they're recurring ones. The earliest one that I remember having was when I was a child of Egypt. And then recently I've had these dreams. There's this one dream where I was like processing through just like a situation relationally that's been happening in my personal life, and like this voice was like, hey, your over identification with these stories are keeping you trapped in this domain, in this realm, and it is impeding your ascension. And then I dropped that storyline and then ascended into a different plane in my dream state. And that was like a couple weeks before the Design Science Studio cohort started. So it's interesting, like all these things are overlapping. So just to backtrack a little bit, we're talking about reaching people that aren't receptive about this type of information. And I grew up in a inner city, working class family in a working class neighborhood. I'm just about the only white kid in my school growing up, and I basically have like been working with this stuff of like, how do we reach and talk to people that don't have access to this information, or they're not even like open or receptive to it, and there's like they're over attached to their storyline. So like for me, it's like the art is the point of connection. It's the disarm, like especially through comedy, and make it like getting people to laugh and getting people to loosen up and that kind of stuff. But yeah, I think to me, that's what has been transmitted through my dream states. A lot of it does come through the dream states. It's all like, it's not necessarily, it's funny, I'm like halfway in the shadow, halfway in the light right now, which is kind of like a metaphor almost. But anyways, but yeah, dream states, a lot of this stuff has been remembered. It's like I have access whenever I'm not so identified with the human form. And I don't know. I don't know if that really exactly answers your question, but that's what I felt compelled to share. So thank you.
Cool. And Tayo's got his hand up. Unmute.
Hey, yeah. Hey, Harlan. Hey, Alicia. Yeah, thank you for hosting this space. I always enjoy it. Yeah, this kind of information, I feel like everyone has a timing to touch when it's time. So yeah, we can provide art, but even if we, you know, give it to somebody, but if they're not ready, they're not gonna care. So, and the consciousness will definitely find if it's time, wherever you are, what kind of circumstances you are in, you're gonna find it. So, that's basically what happened to me too. I thought, because I'm from Japan, I was thinking that I have something to do with Lemuria. Japan is basically like the edge of the Lemurian, what is it, continent. But then I met Shane at the very beginning of this cohort 3, the design science studio, and he was talking about the island, but I didn't really it didn't really click. But he showed me a picture, and immediately I heard in my head, "Welcome home." Welcome home. So now I am more conscious of Atlantis.
Let me just chime in. Shane is Australian, but he's living in the Azores, and he's developing a place in the Azores called the Frequency Village. The Azores are in the middle of the North Atlantic Ocean, about 1,000 miles off the coast of Portugal. They're under the rule of Portugal and and the EU, which they're part of. And yet they're way out in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. And Azores have been coming up for me a lot too recently. So that's pretty profound, though, that when you saw and connected to it, that you had that direct inner feeling and connection. And, that the Azores are obviously being in the middle of the North Atlantic, connected to Atlantis, like a remnant of the Atlantean continent. So please continue. I just wanted to help you, when you just mentioned things that people didn't have any idea what you're talking about. So go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. So that's why, because I had really, really strong feeling about the island. So I wanna, try to get there, because I'm in New York, and I discovered that there is a direct flight to the island, to Portugal.
Let's go. I'll come to New York.
Let's go. Let's go,
Plane,
right?
and we'll go visit Shane at Frequency Village. Also, Shane did join our last New Earth Visioning. He's very busy right now. I've been in touch with him because they're really in the process of launching this place. It's not happening just yet. I mean, they're really coming together. And so he'll be back in New Earth Visioning, or we'll even do a standalone a Zoom call where everyone can join in, and when Shane's ready to present on it. Because I'm super excited. And of course, he calls it the Frequency Village there in the Azores, but his vision is 144 frequency villages around the planet. So Pat, if you're not familiar with Shane and Frequency Village, I think it's something that'll be a good connection for you to know and add into your understanding of who and what's taking place on the planet. Great connection. I mean, that's one of the main reasons what we're doing right now today here in New Earth Visioning is connecting together, which is why I'm just so honored that you chose to show up today, Pat. And of course, thanks, Stefan, if you want to chime in again, because it's always great hearing your wisdom and knowledge, or anyone else.
You know, a lot of times we feel like that voice in the wilderness. And even though we're out there doing things on the media, it's hard to connect with the humans when they seem so thick. And it's like, so where do you fit in? And it's almost like COVID gave us an excuse to not go out. It's like, okay, thank you for sheltering in place. You guys are great. And so what's nice is that as we show up and we let our lives go, like we have very simple techniques that Cartron does. With one breath, you can get to a very still place with him. And it's that stillness that is the frequency, like underneath, like imagine a still pond, and in one breath, you can be on it. It's within, and it's right, you know, the inner universe. So then underneath of that is the primordial essence energy that sometimes you can go into, but this is the stuff that the worlds are made of and things like that. And so you get into that place and you operate from there. Now you're in an alternate position called objective observation of your subjective life. So you're not caught up in the circus as much. And when you look at yourself from, say, the stillness or the still point or the inner soul, then you can really observe yourself as an actor out there and not take your life so personal, because, you know, it's quite interesting. So it's very exciting to meet new friends. And so thank you for having me. And I look forward to making this thing grow as the resources open up. Let's do this.
Exactly. And that still point, you know, it's interesting. The yin yang came up in a different call I was on, and of course the reconciliation, the point between it. And it's so funny because I have this little thing I made that just sits here. That's just the thin line that goes between the yin yang. So that's actually, I never realized how significant this shape is. It's just a letter S or whatever, but you know, it's where the yin yang meet in resolution, in the you know, the still point, the pond, like you mentioned, and
Yeah,
that's such a key
like
for
the
us to
still point.
find.
The still point is the abstract point which exists yet not in the quantum field. So, but the stillness is the place where you can be very calm and you know, operate from. Because our lives of destiny are coming in now, right? Whatever that is. But the ones that we are here for, not the ones we had to do as light workers or whatever, you know, paying the price and holding that place. So now, as we get into that, and the stillness becomes our foundation, and we allow this connection of the highest to this level, now we're sandwiching together the parts that the veil of life and death, which separated us in our incarnations, is literally, we had to be separate to remember to forget so you could remember again. But now we're connecting in with that. And what's cool, Harlan, is that our talents from other lives are coming in too. So you might suddenly, wow, I didn't know I was good at herbs or whatever. And so what's cool, because we're going to need all this stuff as the sentinels. And so this knowledge is going from linear time, having to remember, to things showing up in the present moment. You know, the morphogenic field is coming into a moment that's expanding. As this happens, then linear time, you know, having your list and the mental and the intellect is like that, that's great. But, and that's basically a suggestion, not a necessity. You're letting the universe know this is the goal and you can intend it. But we are working with universal laws. The third dimensional limitations, which are wrapping it up here, are now making way to who we truly are. And as we do this and disconnect from this matrix, just by showing up here, you know, together, it's so cool, because now we're going to get into our lives that are going to be joyous and fun, finally, and be the ones that we were made for as we go up to the level of you know, our frequency, our natural frequency above the din of cacophony of polarity. So this is such a perfect time to be here, and it makes all the stuff that all of you guys went through worth it. So now we get to actually, the fruits of our labor are showing up. That's what's exciting about it. It's a perfect time to still be alive with the body.
Oh. when you mentioned, tap into these talents from past lives, it reminded me of my new favorite movie, Everything Everywhere All at Once, where she taps into her skills, from her other parallel lifetimes. But anyway, I see that we're joined by Simone with the hand up. So please unmute yourself and join in. Speak up. Can we hear you okay?
So we have now.
Oh, it's very quiet. I don't know why. Speak clearly and loudly.
You can hear me now?
It's still quiet, but yeah, so speak loud and clear and we should be able to hear you.
I tried it, yes.
It's muffled also.
Check that your hand maybe isn't on the mic on the bottom.
No, I'm putting it up, so it's maybe because it was on the table.
Where is the microphone? If you could speak closer to it.
Maybe like this. You hear us better?
Yep, and just talk loudly.
Okay.
You just get closer to
We
it.
just had like two words coming up, and we thought like let's show you guys. It was Portugal, Azores, because we are like on mainland Portugal living, and it was great. So I would like to give the rest of the it was like David to talk.
Hello, I'm David. Just present me very briefly. I'm the partner of Simon. We are living in Portugal, and I'm working 20 years on sacred geometry language as decodifying the divine thought behind the spell of controlling the language, fundamentally with the language. So in big lines, what I'm doing is my work, how to relate sacred geometry and use concretely how can we communicate everything we feel with the right words and the right image. So I'm working for 20 years on that, and this is where it's important that we can apply, extend all this knowledge that we all know in a little group like this, and it has to expand in a way. So those thoughts are very specific. They go with English, French, and I work specifically in French, and I saw that there is so much relation with what can be the message of Lemuria, that can be the message of the whole civilization that are there to reminding us the way that the energy we put when we are expressing ourselves. For example, I hear a lot of my God, we use this word so easily that we don't use the sacredness of God, or we use so much word that have nothing to do with what we feel. And I see this coherence that can be worked to really vibrate higher vibration altogether. This is my intervention. Just wanted to say that I felt important that it can be complement to put maybe more focus in this spell that the way we use the language, the way we understand, because for me I believe that we have to redefine every word we use to really know what they mean. And so when we understand what they mean, we can emit the vibration of the right meaning of the words. Because love or amour have different energy, have different frequency, but the frequency behind is the same. So when we speak about consciousness or we speak about intelligence, how can we discern these two? Some people don't even know the difference. So when we speak about intelligence, we will be understood as what is intelligence. And so this is where I feel it's kind of a way to see how I see the evolution. Thank you for listening to me.
Yes, thank you. It was a little hard to hear, but we definitely heard it and also the intent behind what you were sharing was coming through with your words. I'm so grateful and honored you guys showed up today to be part of this and to share. So, and yeah, I
I wonder also, are you guys using a speaker?
it was
No, okay, because sometimes when you have a speaker plugged in, and then you're like an external speaker besides the one on your device,
Yeah, we
Sometimes the mic gets a little funny then too.
we
So
really wanted to hear you as clearly as possible, and it was challenging, but it was muffled, but it did come through. So thank you. But yeah, and you know, of course, I heard you talking about the sacred geometry, which of course is a big part of the work that I do. And then, you know, Pat, who showed up today, was sharing that sacred geometrical diagram, and it's kind of interesting how, you know, sacred geometry goes so far beyond just, you know, it is a form of geometry that it impacts our consciousness and impacts, you know, like, and I'll talk a lot about, you know, aligning your vibrational energy body to the vibrational energy body of the earth that is in these three-dimensional geometries and things along those lines. So it's quite a profound thing. Go ahead, Pat. Yeah, respond to that.
You know, Harlan, so now, as it looks like you have broken out of your shell and it's time to do social media, if you just have your regularly scheduled thing at the same time, like once a month or once a week, then people and all over the time zones around the world will know when to tune into your thing, and you can build your momentum in a larger way. So that's very exciting to watch you launch it, whether you know it or not yet. So it's pretty cool. And so what's great is that then you can have live streams, all sorts of really cool things at your events. Oh, this will be so cool to watch you.
I know this is live streaming on Vision Train YouTube, and then will be recorded so we can go back and get to hear what you had to share, which I want to do. And right now, the way we scheduled it was there's going to be one more at the end of the year, December 29th, and we left it open-ended as to how it will continue into 2024. But with what you just said, it's highly encouraging, you know, to keep it a regular thing, make it available, and, you know, just to be putting it out there, both as the live stream and then as the recording. So that's the intention of that. And, you know, I like the idea of trying to keep it, you know, at the 1 hour. We're at an hour and a half. And sometimes, you know, with our Design Science Studios, which is 2 hours, you know, somewhere between the 1 to 2 hours makes sense for people's attention and in their lives and the time frame. With that in mind, you know, I don't want to end it just this very minute, but I think we should wrap it up. And you know, like I say, I always love calling on Stefan if he wanted to chime in one more time, because he speaks so elegantly and so powerfully for the group. So you know, before we sign off, Stefan, do you have any last thoughts or comments to share with us today?
Yeah, well, thank you. To piggyback and double what our brother in Portugal just said, I think a lot of us in the male minds are learning to truly channel our truth through the heart lens, and that is spoken then in connection to your oversoul, your higher self. And then all the words are permeating and creating a porosity between your recipient that are regenerative. And that energy is now charged with the frequency of intelligent love. And this is how I am learning and practicing, and equally so to be improvisational, spontaneous, comical. Used your comedy again, and lighten up the mood, literally, with the solar flares of your heart bursts that illuminate this planet into the brightest, most beautiful existence of the future we're now here creating. Thank you, Harlan. Thank you so much.
Yes. Oh, great. Anybody else want to share some closing words or thoughts with us today? Well, wherever, hold your silence. And I think we did great. This was wonderful. I'm so grateful that especially Pat showed up to reconnect. Look forward. I'll follow up with you by email. And thanks for sharing from Portugal, and Tayo from New York, and Alicia for hosting us, and everyone else who's been listening in. And I think we can end the recording for today. And of course, it'll be available. We'll make it available if you ever want to share this with other people that you think missed out and want to get the download that we had today. And then, of course, next December 29th, the last, right there in between Christmas and New Year's, we'll have our final for 2023 New Earth Visioning. So we'll be reminding you for that. And We'll just see you all in, like from my Sunray tradition, we don't say goodbye. We say, see you in the light. We really brought a lot of light in today. So I'm really
Also,
looking
check in the chat. I also dropped the link for Harlan's Portal to the New Earth lectures that we have done with Vitra Academy the last weekend and a month ago as well. There's also a discount code for both of those, and the link for our YouTube channel where you can find all of the past New Earth visioning discussions that we've had here, as well as remind you that we will have our next New Earth visioning discussion on December 29th at the same time, 10 a.m. Pacific. That's 1 p.m. Eastern and 7 p.m. Central European. Thank you, Harlan. You're so gracious and generous to hold this space, for us to have this discussion. And I'm always fascinated by the kind of the cornucopia of brilliant minds that end up in here on this call. I'm super grateful to Pat and Tayo, Stefan. We heard from Mage earlier today, as well as Vintage. And I'm also, I'm really interested in continuing, the line of inquiry that Vintage brought to us too. And this is something that I've brought up, I know, numerous times within these discussions as well, is how do we create a more inclusive conversation around this? It always is so apparent to me that we have a great privilege to be able to sit and have this conversation together, and how do we make the new earth and the new earth visions, accessible to people that maybe, don't have the time and resources or the education, or even have like the awareness that these kinds of things are being discussed and being worked on in all over the world, So that's something that I think, that we're really striving for here, and why we live stream these conversations, because you just never know where that share link is going to land and whose ears are going to receive this and be awakened to the potential of designing a new earth together that can be equitable for all. And so thank you so much for all of you and your heart and your passion and your interest in this conversation, and the many ways that we can work together to spread this to a larger community of folks and really bring in, the integration within our culture. So I hope to see you guys again, before next on December 29th, the Vision Train call here. This is a nonstop global art jam. This call that you're sitting on right now, the call is always open. It's mostly a virtual art studio, but we have different programmed events all throughout the week. We have constructive critiques every Tuesday. We have a book club that meets and listens to different books together. We're sharing podcasts, lectures. We bring in different speakers like we have with Harlan today. So I want to just invite you guys also that if you're at home and you're just like looking for connection and whatever it is that you're doing, the Zoom call is open and available to you. I'll also drop our Mighty Networks link in the chat so that you can keep up to date with our events calendar. If you don't have a Mighty Networks account, it is free. So here's the link in the chat here. And also check out our website, vitra.academy. This is our art school, our visionary art school, where we're also working to empower visionaries all around the world, also within their entrepreneurialism. So there's business courses, technical art courses, and if you have any questions, you're welcome to email me at info@vitra.academy, which I will also drop in the chat. And so for today here, November 24th, 2023, New Earth Visioning, we will close this container. And thank you so much, Harlan. Thank you to all of you who are out there. Whether you're here listening right now or you're watching the recording. Till next time. Choo choo.
And of course, you ended the recording, I take